It's go for the 2018 FF2M Spielberg feature race, and pole sitter Colton Herter has gotten away well. Second, Lando Norris similarly well, but Daisuke Sakiya is the one to watch. He's trying to get the inside of Lando Norris into the first corner, not managing that, and actually coming under pressure from Yokikawa Sato. But Colton Herter leads away. Pole position for him, and that's actually his first points of the season. That's how badly it's been going for Herter. And into the Remus curve. Let's see if there's any action further back. There's a Shake and Bake Jr. being passed by Alex Palou. And which Shake and Bake Jr. was that? I suspect it was Jorge Diaz, because Bram de Boer's up there in 6th place. As we look at Daisuke Sakiya, who must be looking quite good for the race, because he's on the faster, grippier soft tyres. Most of the field on those soft tyres. Only 6 drivers are on the hards, and they include race leader Colton Herter, Lando Norris, Yokikawa Sato, Jay Fulmer, Itsuki Yoshida and Nikita Mazepin. All those drivers qualified on the soft tyres, which means that they're on hards for this race, but they'll be on softs for the sprint race. We're looking at Bram de Boer putting pressure on Jay Fulmer, going through Jochen Rindt curve and then the final corner, and continuing to put the pressure on. This is a difference of tyres, and here's a difference in performance tyres once again up inside, and nearly contact between Sakiya and Norris, but Sakiya makes it up into 2nd place, and there's a bit of a kerfuffle further back. De Boer has got past Jay Fulmer, but Fulmer has got back past the Dutchman in the Shake and Bake Jr. as Yokikawa Sato looks at Lando Norris into the Remus curve, and look at that kerfuffle, and the Shake and Bake Jr. losing out horribly. Mario da Silva making up great grounds, up into 6th place. Pascal Wehrlein up into 7th. Ju Young Park 8th. And who was the big loser out of that? Bram de Boer lost out horribly from that. We'll be seeing a replay of that, I suspect. But no, we are actually going to have a look at the replay of the start of the race. So, this will be, we're going to choose a driver, looking at Artem Markelov, who started down in 19th place for the Danish racing team. Fairly decent launch, but yeah, pretty good launch, up 1 position. And does something happen to him in the first corner? Well, lots of contact and a spin, making contact with, I think, Pato O'Ward in the other OLM racing car. And a bit of a blockade that Artem Markelov was creating as a result of the contact. So let's see, Parker's gotten ahead of Wehrlein for 7th place. That was going into the Gersa curve. And Wehrlein about to come under pressure from Cristobal Alvarez in the other STV Racing. Should do a brief review of this season, because this is the first live commentary of the FF2M Championship. It is Lando Norris who leads on 64 points, Daisuke Sakiya on 47 points. As we look at Bram de Boer making, well, he was passed by Itsuki Yoshida for 10th place, but he's going to try and have a go back. He's got his own teammate, Jorge Diaz, behind him. And up the inside into the Castrol curve goes Bram de Boer, and oh, goodness me, Alvarez was flying in there. That was Park being nudged off the grasp, I think, by Pascal Wehrlein. And Alvarez nearly catching himself out as a result. That's Dan Tickton we're looking at. There's a Shake and Bake Jr. being swamped once again. And Pato O'Ward taking 3 cars in one out-braking manoeuvre. Good job, O'Ward. And further back, Markelov's back in it, and he is back at the back of the train. Back to championship standings. Sakiya 2nd on 47 points. Alex Palou 3rd on 40 points. Bram de Boer also on 40 points, but he has fewer wins than Palou. Then it's Yoshida 5th, Fulmer 6th, Alvarez 7th, Da Silva 8th, Kvyat 9th, Pato O'Ward 10th in the championship. And in terms of the team's championship, it is STV Racing leading the way on 97 points. Willows Jr. just did 10 points back. And if Sakiya takes the lead into the Castrol corner from Colton Herter, there's some understeer, and Colton Herter had to take avoiding action. That was no contact, but if Herter kept to the racing line, then there would definitely have been contact. So some evasive driving there from the American, as he is now under pressure from Jay Fulmer into Remus curve. Norris has taken 2nd, now it's Fulmer up into 3rd. Sato down to 5th because Fulmer has taken the Gajera 2 driver at the start of the lap. And the other Gajera 2 driver in 6th. Quite lonely in 6th at the moment, but I'm sure he'll be doing something about that on his softer tyres. Back to the team's championship standings. Willows Jr. only on 87 points. Well, only 87. Only 10 points behind STV Racing. So with Sekia in the lead, that could do their championship charge quite a bit of good. OLM Racing 3rd on 58 points. Shake and Bake Jr. on 55 as Sato versus Herta into the Yock and Rint curve. Not making that one stick. The two Gajera 2s about to go at it, and they sit 5th in the team's championship on 49 points. This is Da Silva going up the inside of Sato into Castrol, but Sato hanging on to that round the outside. But Da Silva gets better traction out of the corner, and better be careful because Pascal Wehrlein in a newly liveried Goomba engineering car. A new livery seems to revitalise the German. How's the other Goomba doing? Well, he's down in 17th place and probably not going to have a good race as Mazepin is on the hard tyres. Here comes Wehrlein looking to make a move on Da Silva into the Gersa curve and sticking to the inside late on the brakes, nearly contact, and Da Silva having to take avoiding action, goes way off the circuit and is going to drop down the order, nearly getting creamed by Alex Palou as Bram de Boer takes advantage of Wehrlein's opportunistic manoeuvre and takes that 6th position away. So De Boer back on the move, and now Cristobal Alvarez, former FJR driver, looking to make up for his difficult qualifying session. He's up the inside and off the track again goes Pascal, well, off the track this time goes Pascal Wehrlein, spinning away a points opportunity. And there's more action going on. Mario Da Silva, having rejoined, is now on the back of Ju Young Park for 9th place. This will be now into Castrol. And that's a position gained. In fact, no, that is 10th place because Alex Palou is up in 9th place. All action at the moment, and there's a bit more action to come as Yoshida defending 8th position off of Palou. That is Park defending from Pato O'Ward into Remus. And O'Ward takes that position. That is 11th for the OLM driver. And OLM having a decent season. They've had a decent record in FF2M, I have to say. Quite a few wins at their disposal. Palou spins! Palou has spun at the Gersa curve. I suspect he's tried to make a move on Yoshida. We're going to see a replay of that underneath the Ajit Bridge. And yep, Yoshida moving over to defend. And right at the braking zone as well, catching Palou out. Palou will rejoin, making sure that nobody crunches into him. He's safe for the moment, and here he goes. He's going to rejoin. Slight kiss of the arm code, but he's going to wait for Pascal Wehrlein to take 21st place, and then Palou can rejoin. Teammate Sekia leads by 4.5 seconds from Lando Norris, and I'm expecting Sekia to be a very strong favourite for the race win. He won the feature race at the Hungaroring, and the sprint race was won by Lando Norris. And we've had a few different winners this season, so let's count them. Lando Norris has won races, that's 1. Sekia has won races, that's 2. Palou 3. Then we've got Fulmer 4. Then Bram de Boer 5. The two Gajeras 7. And Yoshida 8, and 9th different winner this season, Alexander Albon for the Medsign 7 Racing team. How's Albon doing? He is 14th at the moment. Teammate Nobuharu Matsushita is 18th. As we go on board with Jorge Diaz, chasing Dan Ticktum for 12th place. Ticktum, one of 5 drivers yet to score points this season. In fact, make that one of 4 drivers because Colton Herta got that pole position. And you get 2 points for pole position, 1 point for fastest lap, and then for the feature race, it's the same point system as FF2M, 12 for a win, 8 for second, 6 for third, and then all the way down to 8th place, 1 point. The sprint race, 6 points for a win, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 1 point for fastest lap. And probably as a review of the season as a whole, although Lando Norris leads the Drivers' Championship by 17 points from Daisuke Sekia, Lando Norris has been blowing thermite and liquid nitrogen when he's performing well, he's been performing almost unstoppably with 3 feature race wins and a sprint race win. But when he's not performing well, he's been diabolical. I mean, Mugello, he threw away, I think it was, 4th or 5th place in a feature race, and that squandered his sprint race as a result. Road America collided with Sequia after STV Racing failed to communicate team orders between Norris and Alvarez. Then Silverstone, Norris threw away potential win, thanks to collision with Itsuki Yoshida. And then at the Hungaroring, going into turn 4, he was chasing, I can't remember which driver it was, but going into turn 4, which is that fast blind left at the end of the first sector, he just forgot to turn in and then squandered possibly a podium finish, but he still recovered to 7th, and that reverse top 8 grid is what helped him get his sprint race win. And those 4 wins, they've been his only podiums this season. So it's been a massively inconsistent season for Norris. At the moment he is 2nd and doing quite well. We are on board with Alvarez, actually, that was, and he's chasing Yoshikawa Sato for 6th place. There's only 3/10 behind as he started this lap. Lap 9 now, and we're nearly at 1/4 distance. Going into the Gersa curve. Alvarez had 2 FF1M races in 2015. He scored a 7th place at the Chinese Grand Prix, and then since then he's been still in FF2M. We're having a look at Daisuke Sequei. I wonder if there was a replay that we're meant to be looking at. But here is Cristobal Alvarez now looking to make the move on Yoshikawa Sato into the Castrol curve. No contact, but racing room left by both. And Sato is defending extremely heavily. And that is allowing Itsuki Yoshida to close up into the Remus curve. And out of the Remus curve, it is still Sato in 6th, Alvarez 7th and Yoshida in 8th. De Silva recovering after his off-track excursion from that battle with Pascal Wehrlein. And he's going to try and look at Yasuki Yoshida for 8th place, and I'm sure he will because De Silva's on the softs, Yoshida's on the hards. They'll swap the compounds, of course, for the sprint race. So Yoshida's hoping to finish in that 8th place because he'll get pole position for the sprint race. The top 8 are reversed. And obviously the soft tyres are much faster. Sato has is like he's got a bucking bronco going into the Jochen Rindt curve. Just swerving all over the place. I think he'll get a black and white flag if he's not careful, but here comes Alvarez. Now he's got a better run up the inside into Castrol, braking late and taking 6th place off of the Gajera 2 driver. Now Sato's got to watch his mirrors because Itsuki Yoshida is not that far behind. In fact, Yoshida is nicely in the slipstream. Can he make a move into the Remus curve? Going on board with the Spaniel, but he's taking a cautious approach into the corner. How's Spaniel doing in the Teams Championship? Because they've had a pretty hard season. Yoshida's been their only point scorer pretty much, aside from Herta's 2 points for pole position in this race. But this sits 6th in the Teams Championship ahead of Monolith. And how are Monolith doing? Well, they've got Ju Young Park in 10th place and Daniel Kvyat in 14th place. Through the mid part of the lap, and Yoshida, is he going to have a look into the Jochen Rindt curve? Well, Sato's defending once again. As we go on to lap 12 of the race, it is still Daisuke Sequei leading from Lando Norris, and the pit window is going to be opening soon. It's usually the middle third where the pit stops happen, and the middle third begins from about lap 13 all the way to lap 26 or 27, so expect all the pit stops to happen around then. Yoshida nicely in the slipstream now. Is he going to have a look at the inside into the Remus curve? He is thinking about it. And Sato leaves racing room on the outside. But here comes De Silva. De Silva on those quicker tyres in the slipstream. Probably not close enough to have a go into the Gersa curve. And remember, we are using the shorter 4.3 kilometre layout for FF2M. The FF1M race that happened earlier this season took place on the full-blooded Österreichring layout, the much faster one. And that's an engine failure, was it? For Itsuki Yoshida. That is unfortunate because it's a spec engine, spec chassis as well, and it's just gone pop in the back of the Spaniel. That is unlucky. You don't normally see that in FF2M. Rounding the final couple of corners, and going to be an early night for Itsuki Yoshida. So that has moved Mario da Silva up into 8th place, Ju Young Park up into 9th, and it'll move Jorge Diaz up into 10th place, and pulling off his burnt Spaniel, it's in heat. Daniel Kvyat now up to 13th place and challenging Dan Ticktum for 12th place. That is the Tilsley FF2M car of Dan Ticktum, yet to score points. Teammate Callum Ilott is down in 19th place, but he's had a few points finishes. He had a 7th in the Road America feature race, which became second on the grid for the sprint and finished second. Nearly won that one, but Yoshida took him on the last lap. That was... I think Dan Ticktum was actually looking for the Bosch curve. He was that wide. Callum Ilott also took an 8th place at the Hungaroring feature race. Also worth mentioning as well, this is the first of 3 standalone FF2M meetings. So the FF2M series is the highlight of this meeting. Kvyat looking for a highlight into the Jochen Rindt curve, getting up the inside of Ticktum, side by side into the final corner, but Ticktum hanging on round the outside. That was nice and brave. The next race is also a standalone, or next meeting should I say, is a standalone, and that's taking place at the Circuit Zandvoort, which will be making an appearance in FF1M next season. And then the final standalone race will appear after the Belgian and Italian FF2M Prix, and it's the Portuguese FF2M Prix taking place at the Portimao circuit. And then the season will finish off at Suzuka and Sepang. So 14 round FF2M series, 28 races in total, so it's an exceptionally busy season. Are there any pit stops happening? Not just yet, from what I can see. Alvarez has taken 6th from Herta somewhere. So Cristobal Alvarez increasing STV Racing's points haul and certainly not doing his season much harm. He's used his experience fairly well, but he's had a bit of a doldrum patch from Aragon and Road America, where he was basically pointless. But he's racked home some points. A couple of podium finishes, one at Melbourne and one at Mugello, both feature race podiums, so some nice points for Cristobal Alvarez. But he needs to do a little bit more if STV Racing are to challenge for the Teams Championship. Both Willows Junior drivers doing very well, very consistent compared to STV Racing. Both of their drivers have won races this season. And they sit in the top 3 of the Drivers' Championship. This race not gone very well for Pelot, but at least he's still in the race, unlike Itsuki Yoshida. There is a pit stop coming up. It's going to be Mario da Silva who will pit at the end of this lap. So he's going to try and use new tyres to his advantage to potentially undercut his teammate and a few others, depending on how well his pit stop goes and if the traffic plays nicely for him. If you pit early, you do risk getting into a heap of traffic. Through the mini little chicane in the pit lane, down to 80 kilometres an hour, about 52 miles an hour. A few other pit crews out, but it is Mario da Silva the first one to take on new tyres. It is a Tilsley and a Danish coming into the pits. It's Dan Ticktum and Lucas Auer, who is Austrian. Not German, he's Austrian. Out of the pits comes Mario da Silva, and some new tyres going on for Auer and Dan Ticktum. That's Daisuke Sakiya coming into the pits. So he's somewhat surprisingly making the first out of the leading group to make a pit stop, because I would normally expect if he's got a big lead, you'd normally take it to as late as you can while the others make their pit stops first, so that you guarantee yourself a good set of tyres at the end. But anyway, Sakiya is choosing this moment to make his mandatory pit stop, and in 6.9 seconds he's away. So there through is Follmer and Alvarez, so he'll be rejoining in 5th place, I expect. And Alvarez is going to be challenging Jay Follmer for 3rd place soon. He's only half a second behind as they start lap 17. And with pit stops underway now, the order is going to jumble up a bit. But let's say Daisuke Sakiya is your true race leader, because he is the first of those having stopped. And he had about a 12 or so second lead over Lando Norris. Missing the apex there was Jay Follmer. I wonder if his hard tyres are struggling for temperature. Now through the middle lefts is the first one. And out of it goes Alvarez. He's using his soft tyre grip pretty well to stay with Jay Follmer. And exiting the middle part of the lap underneath the bridge. For some reason, Follmer's going defensive into the Jochen-Rindt curve, and that's going to compromise him going onto the main straight. Alvarez nicely in the slipstream as they're about to start lap 18 of the race. Bram de Boer making a pit stop. Alvarez extreme up the inside of Follmer. Something's going to give, and Follmer's had to back out of that one. There wasn't much room to play with. And Alvarez takes 2nd place temporarily. And it had to, because Daisuke Sakiya has already caught up to the back of these two. As Follmer's teammate comes into the pits, Pato O'Ward, that was from 10th place. Judging by the timing screens on the left-hand side, the timing tower, should I say. And Sakiya being held up, so he needs to be patient because he knows he has got the best tyres at this stage of the race. Not thinking about a move into the first left-hander. Is it the Niki Lauda curve? Could be. I mean, these days it's the Niki Lauda curve at the first corner. But I've always known it as Castrol, so if I get it wrong, excuse me. As Daisuke Sakiya gets a good run going into the Jochen-Rindt curve. Can he use his new grip to outbrake Follmer? Of course he does. As Follmer is into the pits, he's had enough of those hard tyres. And further back, some nearly battling between Sato, Park and Diaz. Diaz is going to have a look at Ju Young Park into the Castrol. It should be Niki Lauda curve, but for the moment it's Castrol. And still side by side, but Park does have the advantage at this stage. But now back into the slipstream, sort of, goes Jorge Diaz, the Mexican who won the FF2M championship, one of them, in, was it 2017? Or 2016 it would have been. From Tijuana, Mexico. More pit stops happening. Nikita Mazepin has had enough of his hard tyres. He's down in 18th place, so he's going to struggle, unfortunately. Now Alvarez versus Sakiya. Lando Norris is going to come into the pit, so he's going to be the first STV Racing to make a pit stop. Bit of an awkward pit entry, actually. It sits immediately at the exit of the Jochen-Rindt curve. And Alvarez is going to temporarily lead, but for only a few seconds, because here comes Sakiya into the first corner. New fastest lap for the Willows junior driver. And back into the race lead goes the Japanese driver, who made a one-off appearance at the Macau Grand Prix. As nearly off the track goes Ju Young Park, but holding on to that one. But Daisuke Sakiya had a one-off appearance at Macau last season, replacing Stoffel Van Dorn, and nearly got a point, but due to a quirk and not making it to the finish line, he was classified 9th rather than 8th, and there's going to be trouble if they're not careful. But Norris loses a place to Bram de Boer, who has stopped, That is a genuine overtake for position from Bram de Burgh. So he made that earlier pit stop compared to Lando Norris, and it's paid off nicely for the Dutchman. From Noordwijk is Bram de Burgh. Some of the nicest beaches you'll ever visit. And there's a nice pancake house there as well. Have whatever topping you like on those pancakes. I think you can have bacon and syrup, but it's certainly a sweet race for Bram de Burgh at the moment. And looking on course probably to be second once all the pit stops are out of the way. You'll see the gaps. It's normally 20 odd seconds to make a pit stop. And de Burgh is 16 off of race leader Sekir. He's only 13.5 behind Cristobal Alvarez. So that will surely be second place for Bram de Burgh once it's all done, if he stays out of trouble, because he's got a car in front of him and it is a monolith of Daniel Kvyat. It's a position, but it's not a true battle for position because 2nd through to 6th all have their mandatory pit stops to make. On board with de Burgh as he closes in on Kvyat into the Gersa curve. Kvyat choosing to defend and nearly choosing to have his right rear tyre shaved by the conch of de Burgh. As Colton Herta comes into the pits from... Well, he's way down the order, so I wonder what's happened to Colton Herta, because he was up in 6th place earlier on, so something has happened to Herta for him to be way down. I wonder if he's had contact with somebody. Into the Jochenrindt curve, Bram de Burgh takes 6th off of Kvyat, and now it's Lando Norris's turn to have a go at the Russian driver. The man from Ufa. And Norris is surely going to take 6th place off of Kvyat. He does indeed, into the Castrol curve on lap 22. Alvarez, I think, was into the pits. And out of the pits, target to get out ahead of Mario da Silva. There's Markelov, and da Silva's taken it, so the earliest stop helping out for da Silva. And another engine failure, this time for Alexander Albon, so for whatever reason, these engines are not liking the Spielberg circuit. Well, certainly not in the back of Yoshida and Albon, because we've had 2 of them go pop. So Yokikawa Sato assumes 2nd for now, but he is yet to pit. And another new fastest lap for Daisuke Sekir, as he extends his lead over the rest. That is Ju Young Park we're looking at, temporarily in 4th place behind Jorge Diaz. And Ju Young Park, relatively experienced compared to some of these drivers. Remember him being an FF2M a few seasons ago, so he's had a few in FF1M, and yeah, becoming one of the more experienced. Probably not as experienced as Cristobal Alvarez, because he's been around since 2014. Won the 2014-15 FF2M Asia Series, which is a very good achievement for him. That is Mario da Silva chasing Artem Markelov for 7th place. Not a true position, because Markelov has yet to make his pit stop. I think Sato is about to make a pit stop, because you can see on the bottom left da Silva's pit indicator is red. That means your teammate is coming into the pits. Up the inside into the Gersa curve, and da Silva takes 7th off of Artem Markelov. Now Cristobal Alvarez is next to have a go at the Danish racing car. For whatever reason, da Silva was defending. I mean, he's got much fresher tyres, so he just didn't need to, but for whatever reason, he was needing to keep his position in check. Park in the pits, because Lando Norris had gained a position. Now Diaz versus de Burgh, the 2 Shake and Make juniors, going at it into the first corner, but Diaz not making it too difficult for de Burgh. So now de Burgh is up into 2nd, so the position's becoming more true as the stints go on. So, Jay Fulmer, that's him in 7th, Pato Award in 8th. And Award has made a pit stop, so I think it was one of the earliest to make a pit stop. So that earlier pit stop has helped. As the race settles down, we look at Norris versus Diaz for third. Coming out of the Gersa curve. Diaz should be coming into the pits very soon. Nearly all the pit stops have been completed. It's just Jorge Diaz to go. Is he going to pit at the end of this lap? We'll find out shortly. But Lando Norris having a look into the Jochen curve, and he takes the position before Diaz can duck right into the pits. I think Diaz is in the pits actually because he's disappeared. But now this is the order. On lap 25, Daisuke Sakia holds nearly 20-second lead over Bram de Boer now. Lando Norris up into third with Mario da Silva up into fourth place. Cristobal Alvarez in fifth. Jay Fulmer up into sixth. Pato Ward up into seventh. And Yokikawa Sato up into eighth. So we've got two Gajira 2 drivers in the top 8, two STV Racing drivers in the top 8, two OLM Racing drivers in the top 8 as well, one Willows Jr. and one Shake and Bake Jr. But those are first and second at the moment. And if it stays like that, Norris third and Alvarez fifth, they'll lose 3 points to Daisuke Sakia and Willows Jr. in the team's championship, because Sekiya does have the fastest lap of the race so far. Wonder if anybody else is going to take that. Pascal Wehrlein is taking 13th place off of Callum Ilott. I was wondering what the positions were up to because Dan Tickton was briefly up in position, but it's Wehrlein versus Ilott, and Markelov watching these two have a scrap and now looking to get a piece of that pie. You'll have to wait a few more corners because you tend not to see overtakes going into the middle part of the lap. Second left. And now back to the right-handers. Is Artem Markelov going to have a look into the Jochen curve? He is. There's a fastest lap for Ju Young Park, which means that Willows Racing are now on 12 points rather than 13, so Sekiya probably won't be best too pleased about his Korean friend. And through the first corner, that was... I think Markelov and Ilott are going to battle for a little bit. Ilott in the slipstream of Markelov into the Remus curve. But not thinking about an overtake because Markelov's back end was swaying a bit. And that's Alex Pelot, who is trying his best to recover, but he is down in 16th place after it was contact with Itsuki Yoshida. Or was it Colton Herta? It was one of the two Spaniels anyway. I think it was Yoshida. Through the Gersa curve, which we'd just gone past. Having a look a bit further up, there's the fastest lap holder now, Ju Young Park, looking to try and get into the points. He was 3.7 as he crossed the second sector point off of Yokikawa Sato. But now it's Jorge Diaz, who's the fastest on the circuit. He was the last of the drivers to make a pit stop. So Diaz is chasing after Ju Young Park. These are the two fastest drivers on the circuit at the moment, and they are looking to get a point, get 8th place, because that will mean pole position for the sprint race. How far away? Well, there's Sato going into the Gersa curve now. Give it 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds is the gap between Sato and Park. But with Diaz catching the pair of them, it should be a good battle towards the end of the race. And we're about to have a battle between Mario da Silva and Cristobal Alvarez soon, because they were only separated by half a second as they started lap 27. Onto lap 28 goes both of them. Da Silva... yeah, they're separated by 2/10 now, so Alvarez is going to try and make the move. We're going to switch to that battle now. Alvarez right up the back of Da Silva. Two South American drivers, Da Silva from Brazil and Alvarez from Uruguay. And looking at the outside, going into Remus, but that is not the best method. In the slipstream still, on the back straight going into the Gersa curve, but not enough of a slipstream. I think he's just out of it there. But De Silva choosing the swaying back-end approach going into the Gersa curve. Might need to try and think of a better description for that one. As we are approaching the final quarter of the race now, which compared to most FF2M races that we see, it's been fairly well behaved. Not many collisions and incidents to report, aside from Pullo versus Yoshida and one lap. They're nearly side by side through the Rindt curve. And Alvarez back in the slipstream. What's the gap as they start this lap? Still 0.2 of a second, but looking to do the dummy into the Castrol curve. Alvarez up the inside. Slightly onto the curb goes Da Silva, and he's lost the position to Alvarez, but in the slipstream, not quite. Now he's got somebody in his slipstream. It's Jay Fulmer, 6th place Fulmer on the hard tyres, doing quite well in this second stint. On the slower, harder rubber. And further back, Sato still holding on to 8th place. How far back from him is Ju Young Park? We're concentrating on Jay Fulmer for the moment. He's got his teammate Pato O'Ward in 7th place. O'Ward having a pretty decent season. He's had 4 podium finishes. Kyle Army feature, the Mugello Sprint, and 2 podiums at Silverstone, 2 third places. He had a pole position in that feature race as well. So pretty solid stuff from Pato O'Ward. And just a quick word on the pole positions this season. So, the Australian FF2M feature race, it was Lando Norris on pole. He was on pole again at Kyalami. Then it was Jay Fulmer on pole at the Mugello race. Norris back on pole for Aragon. Then Bram de Burr on pole at Road America. O'Ward on pole at Silverstone. And Bram de Burr was on pole at Hungary. And Colton Herter taking pole position for this race. I think he's doing a first to last challenge because he has gone from pole position to 19th place, with only Dan Ticktum sparing his blushes. The gap definitely closing between Sato and Park. About 2.5 seconds, the gap between those two. And Sato on the hard tyres, Park on the softs. Only 6 on the hards, remember, for this race, and they are Colton Herter, Lando Norris, Jay Fulmer, Yokikawa Sato, Itsuki Yoshida, who's out of the race anyway, and Nikita Mazepin. So of those drivers, it appears that it were both Spaniels that were going for hards in this race. STV, OLM, Gajira2 and Goomba splitting the tyre strategy between their 2 drivers. Rounding the Castrol corner, and they're all closing up a little bit between De Silva and, well, to a certain extent, that is Park, but Diaz isn't that far behind either. So there could be more than a battle for 8th place. It could be a battle for 7th, maybe 6th, maybe 5th, depending on De Silva's pace. There's still fairly comfortable gaps at the moment. I think the closest one is De Silva and Fulmer for 5th place. And Callum Ilott back into the pits, so that must be an issue with his car. We might see that actually. So Callum Ilott away in 4.9 seconds, but we're going to rewind a little bit, and you can see he's got Alex Palou behind. Alex Palou having a look going into the Jochen Rindt curve, and it was a very late issue for Ilott. It was a puncture according to his steering wheel readout, so the team sensed a slow puncture, and maybe Ilott sensed it as well, so quick thinking there from the Brit in the Tilsley. Because normally when you have a puncture, it's game over. So a fortunate one there for Callum Ilott, who has dropped now behind Colton Herter. As he dropped behind Dan Ticktum, he may well do. We have switched to Pascal Wehrlein, have we, on Nobuharu Matsushita. Nobby, we'll call him. And Pascal Wehrlein having a look at Nobby going into the Jochen curve. But Nobby hangs on round the outside. And now Wehrlein about to come under pressure from Artem Markelov for 13th place. Crossing the start-finish line, this is their 32nd lap. And up the inside, looked a bit cautious there from Markelov, and as a result he is still side by side with Wehrlein, and Wehrlein just inching ahead, coming out of the Castrol curve, going into the Remus curve. And they're still side by side pretty much, but Markelov backing out of that one. So I wonder why there was a bit of caution there from the Danish car. And now, here is a battle for... It's for 7th, actually, because Pato Ward is not particularly quick. He was quite early into the pits for his mandatory tyre change. And that'll be why Sato is closing in on him. But Park also closing on the pair of them, and Jorge Diaz closing in on the trio. So we're going to have a nice little battle for 7th towards the end of the race. And here comes Park making the move on Sato into the first corner, and he's done it. Nicely done there from Ju Young Park. Although Sato is back in the slipstream, but Diaz is in the slipstream of the pair of them. Sato taking what will be the outside into the Remus curve. I suspect that's the wrong one because Diaz is taking it. Can he take Park at the same time? Not quite. So Jorge Diaz taking advantage of Sato's incorrect decision to take the outside line. There's still some slipstream in this far camera shot, but Diaz has got that one covered. So the order's changed a little bit. Out of the points has gone Yokikawa Sato, and into the points has come Ju Young Park. Not long to go now. It will be 6 more laps at the end of this one for the drivers you're looking at the moment, and Park can send 2 points rather than just the 1, because he's got Jay Former's teammate, Pato O'Ward, in front of him. And... well, Lando Norris is not particularly quick. He's suddenly dropped to 32 seconds behind the race leader Sekir. I don't know if... I haven't been concentrating on that one, but he's got Cristobal Alvarez really not that far behind him. There is a Tilsley in between the two. But Norris's race starting to come a little bit unstuck. You may see if something did happen to Norris, but I think it's just slow. Just slow in this stint. Even though he has got fresher tyres than Bram de Boer, who made the earlier pit stop. Yeah, I wonder what's happened to Lando Norris there. Anyway, onto a new lap goes Daisuke Sekir. Let's see the gaps as the rest of the field go after him. So, 17.4 seconds. That's the gap between Sekir and de Boer. Norris was 32 seconds behind Sekir as they started the previous lap. That's Park versus O'Ward. And Norris was half a second slower than Sekir. So, about to come under pressure from Cristobal Alvarez. I think STV Racing are going to be a little bit nervous considering what's happened to them this season. Park versus Diaz into the first corner. Park couldn't make that one stick on O'Ward for 7th place. And now that slow exit could cost Jorge Diaz going down the straight into the Remus curve. But Sato choosing the wrong line once again, and he's now got Daniel Kvyat joining this battle as well. Here comes a battle for 3rd place between Norris and Alvarez. If team orders existed, STV Racing will be telling Alvarez to hold station behind Lando Norris, but since they cannot be enforced, then we're going to be seeing a battle between these two. And if Norris is slow at this stage, then the wisest decision would be to not make it too difficult for Alvarez. And he's getting a good run out of the final corner, is the Uruguayan driver. Here comes the slipstream, Lando Norris choosing not to defend that one, and Alvarez late on the brakes, taking 3rd place off of the championship leader. So Norris, for whatever reason, is struggling in the final few laps, possibly for tyre temperature. Possibly just for grip in general. And De Silva still holding on to 5th place from Jay Falmer, so he's doing quite well. Had Sato had a look at Diaz into the first corner because he's dropped way back, and he's now got Daniel Kvyat having a look into the Remus curve but not making that one work. And Pato Award hanging on to 7th place for the moment. Rounding the Gersa curve goes the Mexican driver. He's got the Korean Ju Young Park behind him. And the Mexican, another Mexican actually, we've got 2 in the field, Award and Diaz. So Park is in a quesadilla at the moment. He's trying to get out of it as he has a very, very good run going to the Jochen Rindt curve. Is this going to be 7th place for Ju Young Park? It is, but it is off the circuit a little bit, and Diaz takes advantage of that. So very ambitious there from Ju Young Park, but it's cost him. But he's going to try and have a go back at Jorge Diaz on this straight into the first corner. Can he manage it? Or is Diaz going to hang on round the outside? I think he is. So Jorge Diaz in the Shake and Bake Junior hangs on to 8th place, but he's got a rampant queue of cars right behind him. And Park choosing the wrong side. Now Sato has taken the position off of the Monolith driver. And he's lost another position to the other Monolith. That has cost Park dearly. So let's have another look at that. So gets a great run on Pato Award coming out of the midsection of the lap. Right tight up the inside. Award senses this, basically lets Park do his own thing, and Park just basically carried too much speed. Loses 1 position, but then loses 2 more. Needs to regroup, because you can still see a potential point and a potential pole position in his hands, but it is in the hands now of that driver there, Jorge Diaz. Now, can Diaz actually have a go at Pato Award for 7th place? Because he's still got time, he's got 3 more laps to go after this one. And remember, Award did pit relatively early for new tyres. Diaz was the latest to pit for new tyres. And what's the gap between these two? It is 0.7 of a second. Now Kvyat having a look at Sato into the first corner. That's tight up the inside. And off the track has gone Sato. He went in too quickly and he has dropped a position to both monoliths, both Kvyat and Park. So I don't think Sato is going to be heading for the points, unfortunately, but his teammate still holding on to 5th place, but he is only 3/4 of a second ahead of Jay Fulmer, so that battle is not over yet. Diaz getting ever closer to Award. Through the Gersa curve once again, you can see the nice bit of scenery on the left, you can see the Austrian hills. And you can also see Award defending going into the midsection of the lap, approaching the Gerhard Berger curve. Former FF1M race winner Gerhard Berger. When did he last win an FF1M race? It was in 1993. He could win some races in 95 because that's about to happen soon. Well, it's going to happen anyway. It's happening. 2 more laps to go. I think Diaz had a look at Award going into the Rindt curve, but not making that one work. And the longer he stays behind the OLM driver, the more it gives an opportunity for Daniel Kvyat to take 8th and pole position away. And soon, Daisuke Seki is about to start his final lap of the race. Basically a copybook performance from the Willows Junior driver. Here he goes on the final lap. And yeah, he's going to take a nice big chunk out of Lando Norris's championship lead as Award squirrels it into the Gersa curve. And this is going to give Diaz an opportunity, I think, into the Jochen Rindt curve, if he's brave enough to make that one stick. Staying behind in the middle lefts through the Berger curve. Out of it. And is this Diaz's opportunity because he is pulled out of the slipstream? Award not defending that one. And Diaz Had good speed through the middle of the corner, but round the outside, Ward still hanging on, and this is it. Now Diaz has got the both monoliths behind him. Kvyat, is he going to have a look into the first corner? I think he is going to try. Kvyat having a look, and he's going to do it. Daniel Kvyat up into 8th place. So, Jorge Diaz, that has cost him quite badly. But this is their penultimate lap, and Diaz choosing the outside, but that's not going to work. So Park now going to take advantage of that into the Remus curve. Just about, yes he is. So Diaz cost it dearly. So Daisuke Sakia has just won the race. There he goes across the line. I was worried we were going to miss that, but just about caught the aftermath of Daisuke Sakia winning his 2nd consecutive feature race. As for the rest of the order, Bram de Boer comes home in 2nd place. Alvarez will be coming home in 3rd, probably. Just waiting for confirmation of that. As there's Colton Herta making a meal out of the final corner. And Alvarez coming home 3rd, Lando Norris 4th. Useful points, but quite a big dent out of his championship lead. And goodness me, so there's all sorts happening at the final corner, but it's Mario da Silva coming home in 5th, Jay Fulmer 6th, and the top 8 completed by Pato Ward and tomorrow's pole sitter, Daniel Kvyat. There's confirmation of those results. And Ju Young Park finishing 9th in the end, ahead of Jorge Diaz, who does take the points for fastest lap, so it's not a complete bust for the Shake and Bake junior driver. Yokikawa Sato down in 11th, then the rest of the order completed by Alex Palou, recovered to 12th in the end, so that's not too bad, but not where he wanted to be. Pascal Wehrlein, Matsushita, Markelov, Auer, Eilot, Herta, Tictum, and the last of the runners, Nikita Mazepin.